Hi Sunday Club.
Hi.
We are enjoying the sunshine, sitting out in our garden doing this virtual Sunday Club. So last week, what were we doing last week at virtual Sunday Club?
We were going outside and learning about the amazing creatures God's made.
Yeah, that's right. So we were outside and we're thinking of God's creation. So what he's made with places and plants and creatures and animals. And we've loved seeing what some of your adventures outside in God's creation have been this week. So we will pop in some of your pictures and crafts and things you've done now so that everybody can see them again. We loved seeing all the different pictures and things from your walks and your adventures out in creation this week, didn't we?
Yes, we loved it.
We loved it, yeah. Aaron liked seeing all the pictures, and we loved going out for some walks. We went for one earlier today, and we've been out and about in God's creation this week, admiring it, and it really is beautiful. But you may have noticed that last week, when I read the creation story, I ended it a bit earlier than we normally do, and I left out a pretty important part of God's creation. Can you think what the last bit that God made that I didn't mention last week was?
The puffins?
The puffins? Well, the puffins aren't in the account, but that would come under the animals and the birds. So if we had the...
Oh, robin redbreast.
No, it's not a creature. What part of God's creation? We've got the sun, we've got the water, the land, trees, birds, animals. What or who else did God make?
Everyone?
Yeah, people. I got there. People. So I left out the part at the end where God made people. So I'm just going to pick it up from there. So I'll read Genesis chapter 1, verse 26. So continuing from where we left our reading last time. And it says, "Then God said, let us make man in our image, in our likeness, and let them rule over the fish of the sea and the birds of the air, over the livestock, over all the earth, and over all the creatures that move along the ground." God created man in his own image. In the image of God he created him. Male and female he created them. God blessed them and said to them, "Be fruitful and increase in number. Fill the earth and subdue it. Rule over the fish of the sea and the birds of the air, and over every living creature that moves on the ground." And then a bit later, it says in Genesis 2:15, "The Lord God took the man and put him in the Garden of Eden to work it and take care of it." So God made people. He made people in his own image to be like him. And he's creative. He created everything. So we're made to be creative. And he's in a relationship. We learned about the Trinity. And we are made to be in relationships with God and with each other. And he gave them a job. He gave them something to do. They had a purpose in his creation. Wonder, can you think? I'll put up a couple of the verses for you to see. Can you see what the job, what the purpose was? What did God want the man and woman to do? So what did God ask the man and woman? What did he want them to do with his creation?
He wanted them to look after the animals.
Yeah, look after the animals, so take care of creation. And part of that is looking after the animals. So God's creation is wonderful and he's put us in it. We're part of it. But we have a special role. We are set apart and God has given us a task to help take care of his creation. Now, if you make something, like if you build something that you really love, that you've been happy that you've created, maybe it's something you've built out of Lego, or maybe you've done a lovely painting, how would you feel if someone was holding it? What would you think if it was something you really loved that you had created? What would you think if someone else had it? What would you want them to do with it?
To give it back.
To give it back, yeah. But if they were holding it and looking at it, if I was holding it and looking at it, why would you want them to give it back?
Because I made it.
And what would you be worried they'd do?
Break it.
Break it. So what would you want someone like me, if I was carrying it, to put it on a shelf? What would you ask me to do with it?
I would ask you to be careful with it.
Yes, to be very careful because you've made it. That's something you've created and it's important to you. You love it. So the world is God's, creation is God's. All these animals and people, everything in it that we can see belongs to God. It's his beautiful creation, but he's asked us to take care of it. So this week, that's going to be our challenge, to see how maybe we could, I know you guys do take care, you wouldn't leave rubbish or anything lying around, but maybe we can think of ways that we can do a little bit more so that we can take care of God's creation a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
So we saw in Genesis that God had asked us from the very beginning, people, to take care of his creation, to look after it and to be good stewards so that it can be fruitful. But often we failed a little bit in that task, and in recent years we've started to realise what an impact the amount of waste that we make has on the environment. So there's been a lot of campaigns to try and reduce that and the impact we have on our environment. So you've maybe heard some things at school or in Scouts or any clubs you're at when we talk about the environment and what we can do to try and help take care of it better, which we know God asked us to do from the very beginning. Can you think there's 3 R's that keep coming up when people talk about this? Can you think what they are?
Reuse.
Reuse is one of them.
Recycle.
Yeah, reduce. Recycle. Reuse you said. So the other one was reduce. So it's reduce, reuse and recycle. So the first one, reduce, is we're trying to reduce the amount of waste that we have, the amount of things that we make. And there's some things you can do. So, for example, if you've got soap like this in the house, you end up with lots of plastic bottles when we use soap and shampoo and things. And there's a way to reduce how much plastic. So this is a refill pack. So it's 85% less plastic. So this fills 4 bottles. So that's one way you could try and use a bit less plastic with less plastic bottles. Or you can get the same kind of pack like this with the washing up tabs. So that's 75% less plastic instead of ending up with a whole bunch of these tubs. You can get other things that are even better than that they use even less plastic than that. Maybe some of you use some of them, but some of our common household items, we can try and reduce the amount of waste we have. So there's a couple of examples. We'll show you one more. So another way you could maybe try and reduce, what have we done to try and reduce some of our plastic packaging? We've got these. So we've got a new way of buying our Luro. So it's not in the plastic wrap or anything, it's in recycled paper. So it's from recycled product and everything can be recycled. So that's one way that we've tried to reduce some waste. So you can think of other ways that you can reduce. And one other thing, so it's not a product, but one thing that in this house anyway, we're normally having to remind some people is to try and reduce the amount of electricity we use that we don't need to. And even simple things like turning off the light when you leave a room and not leaving things on, like chargers if they're not needed, so we can reduce the amount of energy we use. So maybe you could have a look about, see in the house what you guys already have been doing or have done that helps reduce some of the things, some of the plastic or some of the packaging. You could maybe think of a way you could reduce a bit further. It might be you could make a poster to remind yourself and each other in the family, turn off lights when you leave a room, or whatever other ways you're come up with to reduce. You could make a poster to remember so that you follow that through. So the first thing is reduce. The second thing is reuse. So you could use some things and reuse them. We'll show you a couple that Aaron has made now. So we're outside in a little part of our garden that we have tried to make more wildlife friendly recently, haven't we?
Yes.
So first Aaron planted some seeds there. What kind of seeds did you plant?
Wildflowers.
Planted wildflowers, so they're starting to grow, and we've got another couple of tubs of wildflowers and sunflower seeds that are growing. Why did you plant wildflowers?
So that the butterflies and the bees can have a good time.
So the butterflies and the bees can have a good time. So they're good for butterflies and bees. And he's also made a couple of makes here from recycling that maybe could give you guys an idea. So we had an old container for this one, and he's made it very colourful. So what is it?
It is a flower that has sugar water on it.
And who's that for?
The butterflies.
Butterflies. So he's made a butterfly feeder. So we've got felt here, and we can put some sugar water on that for the butterflies, and we've made it really colourful because they like butterflies.
That reminds me, I have to fill this up.
Yep. And he's also made this bee hotel, haven't you?
Mhm.
So we got an old tin. You can see it's like we got an old
it's
tin.
hot.
Yeah, just the weather. And we put an old balloon round it with some tape to give us so it looks like a bee. His eyes are kind of gone off. He's becoming a bit wild himself, isn't he?
Yes.
We'll pop a picture in of what he was like when you first made him, huh?
Yes.
So we got him there, and he just used old toilet roll tubes and cut them off and put them in there.
Mhm.
You can make that, or you can make like a bug hotel or something in the same kind of way. So you can have a look and think, maybe there's some recycling some things that maybe there's some things that I could recycle to make into something that would benefit some of the creatures that we might find in our garden. So we got one for the bees. You could make a bug hotel. There's one for butterflies. Maybe if you could make a hedgehog house. Or you could think of what creatures that you've found lurking about when you were going through your creation discoveries this week, and have a look and see what could I make for them that might make my garden or an area near my garden a bit more wildlife friendly for them, so we can help take care of the creatures in our local area that way, can't we?
Yes.
As I was putting this together, I thought, oh, I can think of something that I've got that I love that's made of recycled, or upcycled, might be the word, materials. So I want to show it to you. Or show them. There's a couple. It's an elephant. It's my favourite animal that I told you about last week. See him? There we go, an elephant. And I've got a lion. He's really colourful. He's got a very colourful mane. And I've got a shark. All of these are made by taking something that would otherwise have just been waste, and it's been recycled and made into these. Do you think you know what it's made of? Do you think you could have a guess? I'll show you. Can you think? It's a bit squeezy. A little bit squeezy. Lots of different colours. If I put them in water, they'd float. I'll give you another clue. Where I bought them is near water, so it's near the sea. So the items that these are made out of are things that would normally, if they were left floating around the sea, look horrible, cause a lot of sea pollution and be dangerous for the animals in the ocean. So this incredible man fished them out, put them all together and carved this. What is it? If I told you that you often wear these around the beach on your feet? It's flip-flops. That's why there's so many different colours. So he glues all these flip-flops together and then carves them into loads of animals. He's really good. So I stood and watched him and chatted to him for a bit. In fact, I'll pop a picture of him with his stall with all his animals. So he went and he fished these all out. He thought they look horrible floating in the sea. It's not good. I could do something with them. He takes them out and he makes them. And now he's even got deals going with local shops. So when they sell shoes, they have a basket there that says, please give back your old flip-flops and you'll get some money off your next pair or your other pair of shoes. So that's one way he's taken rubbish and waste and turned it into something really cool. And I love my little colourful animals. I remember when I was little, I had a hot air balloon hanging from my ceiling as well that was made out of Coca-Cola cans. That looked really cool. I don't think I have it. My parents maybe have it somewhere in a box. But that's examples of waste that can be turned into something really cool. So maybe that can give you some inspiration. Maybe you've got some things in your house that's made from recycled materials and you can use that as your inspiration to take some stuff that would normally get thrown away and turn it into something. So you can reuse things, you can make stuff from it. It could be something you could use outside for the wildlife like we showed you. Maybe it's something you could give to someone else. So something that you could make for them and give to them. Maybe you could just reuse it within the house. Use your lots of, I don't know, containers to turn into Lego storage. So you can sort out your Lego blocks or whatever. Get creative and think of a way that you could maybe reuse something. So have a look around the house or think of something you want to make and go, right, I'm going to use some of this recycling instead of going out. Or just some waste that might not even be, even better if it can't normally be recycled, and I can reuse it. And the last reduce, reuse and
recycle.
Recycle. So you will have your recycling bins and you'll know we can recycle card, plastic, glass, food waste, things like that. But there's also lots of things you can recycle that, well, you probably do some of them, like we can recycle clothes by putting them to charity, toys. You can recycle books, DVDs, CDs, batteries can go in the recycle bins. They've got some at Asda and Sainsbury's. Glasses, instead of throwing them away, you can recycle glasses. So there's lots of things. So maybe when you next need to throw something out, you can have a look, Google, can I recycle that? Or see if you can find anything that's recyclable that you didn't know before, and then you can recycle a little bit more. So we can try and take care of the environment by limiting what gets thrown away, by reduce, reuse and recycle. So we said earlier, if you made something that you really loved, that you had created, you would want, if anyone was touching it, you'd want them to be really careful with it.
Yes.
Yeah, you want them to be really careful. And if you gave it to someone to look after, you'd have to really trust them. And so by God asking us to look after his creation, he shows how much trust he puts in us. And he knows that. He's given us the ability to care for it. And we often have been shown that we don't do the best job. Now, as beautiful as God's world is, and we looked at creation last week, and we've all spent the week just spending some extra time admiring God's creation and his creatures and everything he has made. But we do have an impact on the world that's often not been for the best. One of the good things about lockdown has been that there's been less of an impact, there's been less rubbish. Some animals, there's been amazing stories, maybe you could look them up, there's been amazing stories of animals coming into cities because it's so quiet, there's no people about, so the wildlife are having a great time. And actually it seems like the world's been able to heal a bit. There's been less pollution because of the less cars and traffic and factories that are going. And now that we're coming back from lockdown, we're starting to see already that humans can sometimes have a bad impact on creation and our environment. So I am going to pop in a couple of pictures that show you some of the negative impact that humans have had very recently in the UK. So it's never nice seeing beaches or our local area covered with rubbish, is it?
No, not at all. It makes it not very fun.
No, it's not very nice at all. And you could take part in a beach clean or something once lockdown's over and it's safe to do so. And that could be one way we can help look after God's creation. And you can see that we know that God's made a beautiful world, but we also know that sin came into it. That's why Jesus came to save us from that. But we still are in a broken world, which is why things like the coronavirus is happening. Our world's not perfect like it should be. And you can see from some of the bad impacts humans have in creation. Recently in Aaron's Science magazine, we were reading about gibbons, the monkeys.
Yeah.
And they're pretty cool creatures, and there's some great videos of them swinging about the trees, but their habitat is being taken away by what humans are doing. There's lots of animals that are endangered because of what we are doing, and that's one way that you can maybe try and get involved in a cause like that to help care for God's creation. But God asks us to look after it. He trusts us with his beautiful world, and he wants us to have a positive impact. So while we can shine our light for God, we talked about the fruit of the Spirit. So instead of people seeing any nastiness towards each other, they see the fruit of the Spirit through us instead, and that's one way we can shine a light. And we want to do that with the world as well. So we want to add to helping take care of it. We want to have a good positive impact. So instead of it being filled with rubbish or creatures being neglected or their environments not being as good as they can, we can make sure we do what we can to take care of God's creation, to make sure his creatures are looked after. And that can start in our own gardens with the creatures that we saw last week visiting. God's trusted you with his precious world, and he's asking you, can you help take care of it? And although the world is broken, can you help in the healing by bringing some of my love, my care to it, and so people can see that. Just like when you're with God and you've got the fruit of the Spirit in you, when we go with God, then instead of throwing our rubbish down, instead of only caring about what we want rather than what we buy or what we have having an impact on the environment, we can be a bit different and care for God's creation. So this week, think of things you can do. Have a look, see if there's anything in the house you can use to make something and show us. You can make a poster to show in your family or share it with people about how they can help care for God's creation. If you're out a walk and you have like a litter picker, you can get like maybe a sharper stick, be careful, and pick up litter that way. Don't use your hands. That's maybe something you can do. You can maybe get involved in causes that you know that you care for. Maybe your favourite animal's got one that you could be part of. You can think of how you can reduce, reuse and recycle, and we can think, thank you God, you've made this beautiful world, but thank you that you trust us, and we're going to do our very best to take care of your creation. So we can't wait to see you on Zoom and see what you're doing and hear about the positive impacts. It doesn't just have to be ones you've done this week. If you've done any recently that you think, oh, we've been doing this to try and help care for creation, then let us know, and we will see you on Zoom. Bye.
Bye.